Grand Aunty, my Myra, was 60 years older than me, had a lethal eye roll, and was told she wouldn't live to see her 21st birthday. But she didn't let that stop her. She was an opera singer, she wrote books, she even managed a company's computer room at a time when women really didn't do that kind of thing. With her first serious paycheck, she put half away for savings and blew the other half on a designer coat that she had for the rest of her life. When she saw me play Gretel in The Sound of Music, aged 5, she sat next to me on the couch and she said, "Do you like performing?" And I said, "I love it." And she said, "But do you want it, or is it just fun for now? Because that's also okay." And I said, "I want it, Myra." And she said, "Well, okay, then we need a plan." She dug a pen and a piece of paper out of her leather handbag and she said, "We need to get you seen. We need to get you on the Late Late Toy Show." And she started writing this letter and she said, now this letter is from you, so you're gonna have to copy it out later. I'm just giving you a head start. And I watched her write, "I'd love be on Toy Show." And I said, "Myra, that line's wrong." And she gave me this weighted side eye and said, "Yes, we're making you endearing, darling." Now, I'd love to tell you that letter got sent and I ended up on the toy show, but that's not what happened. But Myra, being involved, stayed true over many years, and even when her health stopped her from seeing me in things, she always knew about them. It didn't matter if I was learning a song or I was in a school play, she knew. So when I was 18, after a 7-hour audition, when I found out that I was being offered a place at one of the most prestigious performing arts institutions in the UK, she was beside herself. I went to her sitting room and we celebrated for hours, and she drew this check mark in the air between us, and I was like, "Myra, what are you doing?" And she said, "We need to mark this off your plan." Tick. When I got to the UK, I didn't have any family or friends over there, so when I used to miss home, I'd go for walks, and one day I saw this red retro landline phone for £11. I bought it, went straight home and called Myra. I had a mobile, but she preferred to dial landline numbers, and she was the only one who ever used that phone, and we never had to sugarcoat anything with each other. Like, when things were difficult, she'd say, "It's tough, but you're tougher." And likewise, she'd be in and out of surgeries, and I'd tell her I was thinking of her. And I'd also remind her of all the very intelligent doctors who swore she was at death's door that she'd already outlived. And that always made her laugh. When I graduated, it was the recession. There were no auditions. I had an agent, but it didn't really make all that much of a difference. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do, so I rang Myra, and she said, "Well, what play would you like to be in if you had a choice?" And I told her about this play I'd seen years before called Bash. I loved it, and I knew I was right for the lead role, but I also knew if it ever came to the West End, I was not getting an audition because I just didn't have enough on my CV. And she said, "Oh yes, I think that'll do quite nicely. Off you pop." So I did. I incorporated a company, I bought the rights, I found an off-West End theatre, I produced the play whilst taking on the lead role, I hired everyone, I did the PR, I was drafting health and safety procedures. I was on a gauntlet I had no business being on, but it went well, really well. A programmer saw the show and offered a West End transfer. Needless to say, the answer was, "Yes, please." Myra wasn't well enough to come to London, so when the show finished up, I went back to her sitting room and showed her the programme and photos, and she asked me to read the reviews out to her. And I remember she closed her eyes and she had like this soft smile on her face, and I actually thought she'd fallen asleep at one point, so I stopped. And without opening her eyes, she just said, "I'm still here, keep going." Before I left that day, she said to me, "Your West End debut was wonderful, but isn't it even sweeter that you gave it to yourself? We need to mark this off your plan." Tick. When I told her I was moving home, she got this pained expression on her face and she said, "Are you stopping?" And I said, no, it's just because of Brexit, there's more auditions here at the moment. And she went, "Oh, you gave me such a fright." Since then, I've been in plays, TV, a couple of films. I've even been in an ad for the Late Late Toy Show. During the pandemic, I used to Myra was within my 2K, so I used to go to her nursing home and stand in a flower bed with a whiteboard, and I'd write out jokes and any family gossip I thought she'd enjoy. And she'd laugh, she'd roll her eyes, and then she'd point at me and mouth, "What's next?" I told her everything was shut, so I was writing a novel, and she went, "Oh yes, good," as if that was a natural next step for me. I lost my Myra in 2020. She died of old age at 93. Myra was a force. Her unwavering belief in me made me feel supported and safe to chase my dreams. She gifted me my belief in myself, and I get to carry that with me forever. With my first serious paycheck as an actor, just like Myra, I put half away for tax and blew the other half on a designer coat. And she loved that I did that. I wore that coat to her funeral, and I'm pretty sure she'd have loved that too. One last thing Myra used to always say was, "Mark my words, we'll get you on the Abbey stage yet." So Myra, wherever you are, we need to mark this off the plan. Tick.
Rebecca Harris, everybody.